Well, hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network episode 86. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. This week, we're talking about a new sample-based synth, the recently released Landr AI Mastering Plugin, along with a discussion on AI's place in music production. Finally, in the round robin, we'll discuss creator anxiety and whether it's worth constantly using your creative time as content for the social media machine.
Absolutely. This show is brought to us by our patrons. So many of you in the chat today. It's wonderful to see you. This show is live on Wednesdays before going across to the podcasts on Saturday on Spotify and on Apple Music. Thank you ever so much. My name is Curtis, and this week we are joined by, let's go with Sunwarper today. How you doing, brother? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm surviving, man. I had quite a lot happen in the last couple days. I'm rearranging the Dallas desk, and this is the routing I'm intending to do.
Yay, Andrew!
Nice.
I went for like the quote simplest routing because I was thinking, oh, I could involve the MIDI hub and I could send everything through the Digitact into the MIDI hub and then have like the Prophet be the MIDI control. And I was like, no, start simple. And this isn't even that simple, but yeah, so I did that. And while I was moving things around, I dropped this metal pedal on my foot. So I was in sandals, so that was fun. Luckily, I think the part of the sandal like kind of buffered the fall, but oh, it was painful. But yeah, I mean that's been fun. Been working on some mastering for some clients and stuff, which is always good. I have to get around to Curtis's. He keeps subtly mentioning that he keeps adding to this folder.
I don't know,
but I'll get there. I am dealing with a new board, so that's been the other fun. But I finally got 3 hours straight of sleep, so that's quite the achievement because it's usually been an hour and a half broken, hour and a half broken. So 3 was really nice. Really quick before we go to Eon Lake, though, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got Abby in the chat. They are muted in a team meeting. How are you doing? If you can answer, I'm hoping you're doing the Hydro Fighter double headphone. We've got Survey Channel here. He says, hot damn, here we are. Well, welcome. We hope you can make it in the round robin. Same with you, Lars, if you can. The links for the round robin for all patrons who want to join are in the Twitter and Discord groups. Just go to the StreamYard. You'll get in the green room, as Curtis likes to call it, and his cat. Let me just zoom it up. Almost missed the cat. I got it. You'll be in the green room, so you'll be in the back. We'll let you in when we get to it, but if you want to just hang out in the back, you are welcome to. David is in the chat. Hey, everyone working and watching. Welcome, David. How are you? Lars says, I'm doing the same thing Abby is, paying attention to this when I should be paying attention to another meeting. Well, we appreciate you spending time with us, and hopefully it will be informative and worth it for missing that meeting. But, if you got to go, you got to go. Let's see. Survey Channel says, I'm waiting for an email. No meetings for me, thankfully. It looks like he's working from home today. That's always nice. And yeah, let's see if I missed any. That was right at the top. Lars says, silly AI. I think it's people. It thinks it's people. Yeah. Shady Ridge is in. He says, hey, everybody. Yeah. Welcome, Shady. How are you? What's everybody working on this week? Are you doing any moving around of the studio? Are there any songs you're working on? Did you get any new gear? Let us know. But I'm speaking of new gear. I would assume somebody in this chat got some new gear. So let's go to Eon Lake.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
No, nothing major. Nothing major. It was a free giveaway. Softtube giving away a compressor that I kind of already have because it comes as standard on my PreSonus mixer, but it's a VST, so you can use it in those digital audio workstation things as well. So yeah, it was a good one.
Is it 2A? Is it 2A what's it called?
Now that's the question, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is the short answer.
I think it. So I got it as well. And it's a great thing. I can't remember what it is for the life of me.
Would you guys get it from Plugin Boutique or something, or was it through Softtube?
It was a direct mail out from Softtube.
Oh, that's the one thing I guess because I never want to be on the mailing lists. I miss some of those deals.
Who wants to be on a mailing list? No one.
There's just so many. It's just like I hate opening my email in the morning or something, and there's just thousands of emails, So
I know what you mean. Oh yeah, the LA2A. The LA2A. from Universal Audio. Is that the one?
Yeah, it was UA. Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
not
wasn't that through Plugin Boutique as well. I put it in the Discord. There were like 3 plugins they were offering for free. I grabbed all of them, but haven't used them yet. But I'm looking forward to it. But what else have you been up to, Beyond Lake?
Well, not much. A little bit of writing, a little bit of sound doodling on a project I'm working on.
I knew that would intrigue Curtis. Sorry, Beyond Lake. Just.
But yeah,
That's
not
cool.
much. It's been a quiet week, actually. So yeah.
Right. Well, let's hear from. I'm just going to assume. I'm assuming all things today, but they seem to be turning out correct. But someone who's never busy, Curtis, what's up? Or never not busy, I should say. You're always busy. I saw that look of reality. Yeah, someone who's always busy. Curtis, what have you been up to? And then we've got a few people in the chat, so I'll get to them after you, Curtis.
It's been pretty nice. It's been quite chill this week in the best of ways. It's half term. It's a week off work at the moment.
50-50.
So, 50-50. So I've been housekeeping with the studio. Okay. So like, there's a load of presets that in Vital that I've been meaning to import into Vital. There's been a couple of plugins that I've got. The 2ALA was one of those. I added that straight to my mastering chain. For example, and I've just been doing little bits and bobs. I started work on Fragments 3 properly. I've been toying with it over the last couple of months, and I finally started work on that. So it's been a very sound designy, chill kind of getting back to what matters, i.e. being here with the cats and doing my thing. I haven't had that for a while, so that's been lovely. That's been really, really nice.
Nice.
Can't complain.
Let me
What
get
about you?
to the chat really quick. I was typing something because I don't want to forget the last segment. But real quick, the chat, we've got Lars. He says they're trying to catch up on reviews for Fringes. Nice. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're coming back. We've missed you. We've missed you. So it's good to have you back. David says, I'm here busy at work. That's a bummer, man. But hopefully you can get a semblance of a break, and if you want to join, if you have some time to join the RR, hop in. And then Shady Ridge says, busy with our next release for Friday and started to mix my next solo release. Very exciting.
I am excited about that one.
That's going to be awesome. I saw that Shady's been posting more and more. Obviously, there's a couple of releases out on Shady Ridge Records. It looks like a beautiful time over there at the moment. And it must be great to sit back and play some ambient guitar. Love to see it. It would be really nice to see. Completely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, should we get into some of this awesome news?
Yeah. Let's start with the Kiviak. Kiviak? I'm going to go Kiviak.
Maybe the video will say.
Maybe. I mean, we're not going to play much of the video, but
all you need to know is it looks awesome and it looks very promising.
Very much so. So this is the piece of gear that we got for this week. This is a Kickstarter. Want to make that very clear. It's a Kickstarter from Kiviak itself, and it's called the WoFi. And it's a sample-based synth. I know, right? I know. It's an absolute beast of a little sample-based synth. And it's got it's a 10 voice polyphonic sampling synthesizer. Sorry about that. With built-in sampling, you can record directly to the internal microphone itself and then use it chromatically on the board itself. It's got all your basic and standard sampling manipulation software like an envelope filter, low pass filter, LFO, etc. It has a granularizer. It's an onboard granularizer. Internal battery.
I know, it sounds
speaker.
Really cool. And wow, I looked at the Kickstarter. I'm going to share it in the chat. It's already got $99,000 pledged of 106,000 goal. So 21 days to go, 159 backers. That's a lot of money for 159 backers. That's pretty crazy. But let's check out what it sounds like. And the Kickstarter, I'm going to share it on the screen, but it's in the chat if you want to check it out.
Very much so. So this is what it looks like over we have here. We have everything you need, and it's as easy as this. So I've gone straight to the sample recording and management.
Polyphony. Record your voice or anything else with the built-in microphone. Connect your phone, dynamic mic, or synthesizer to the line inputs. Player patch with WoFi's 2-octave mini keyboards with aftertouch as a one-shot. In reverse.
Just lower it a bit.
or loop it forwards
No.
or back and forth. Change the pitch.
So I'm going to stop it there. There's a lot you can do with it. Looks very promising. But Curtis, you brought it to the table. Do you want to share a bit about it beyond that? If there's anything you want to share specs wise, or just why you brought this to the table? I mean, I can guess why, but
I mean, we all love sampling here. I think that's pretty obvious as to why I brought it to the table. But it is, I think it's lovely. The reason I brought it here is maybe because it's a Kickstarter, try and drum up some awareness of where it's going on. But the idea of it being, firstly, 10 voice polyphony in there, directly imported into an internal microphone, then you can, and as you can see, you can manipulate the sample in all of the best ways in which you need to make something new. You can, but it has got a Wi-Fi connection, so you can send samples directly from, say, a computer or from your phone directly into the bank itself, through Wi-Fi, which is beautiful. And also, they have an entire database of their own in which you can download samples, supposedly for free. It's just looks like this. It's purely portable as well. So me and you were talking on Sunday for Starstream about the portability of an SP404. It's got internal battery, so you can just pick it up and just go to your favorite coffee shop and be a right hipster, just sampling the coffee
and nice having the keyboard too. I mean, the Mark II SP404 has the chromatic mode, and you can do scales and stuff. But I mean, you have to play on those pads. That there's no, at least on the Digitact, like it kind of comes up with a keyboard if you're doing chromatic mode. The SP, you just have 4 rows of of pads, but this has a keyboard. So if you're a keyboardist or you're used to playing on a keyboard, I like that feature. That's pretty cool. And the microphone, which the old SPs used to have, but the new one doesn't have. That's awesome because you can just capture sounds and stuff like that.
And I think I don't feel like it would be. I mean, I know it's a Kickstarter, but I feel like it's one of those that once it becomes a Kickstarter and once it does well, you never know where it could come through and, mass appeal and stuff like that. Like we are, maybe it's just our own little echo chamber of Audionautics. I don't know, but I feel like, sampling and, creation through sampling is not just, it's always been there in music production, but it's the tools are becoming
sort of
more
renaissance,
and more.
would you say? I was going to say, I mean, like Sonicware just announced a new sampler that combines the Live and Lo-Fi 12 and the Sample Trek. It's like a combination of both, and that looks really promising. And then, I mean, you have all like the Digitact, the Octatrack, the SP404, Machine, MPC. I mean, there's so many options of these sample-based things that can do chromatic stuff like this. It's really cool to see, to your point, Curtis, this sort of, in my opinion, like a renaissance of sampling where there's just all kinds of ways you can do it. And it's not just take some vinyl. There's nothing wrong with this. It's awesome, but take some vinyl or something and make a beat from it. Like you can make synths from it and do all sorts of sound design. And I love that.
It does, yeah.
Ian Lake, what's your take? Or go ahead, Curtis. Sorry. I just want to hear from Ian Lake
first. I've already spoken. I want to hear what Ian Lake has to say about this whole thing.
Well, I quite like the look of it. Just about the time I was just checking to see if Chompy's out yet, because
I know it was one of the recommended videos. I was like, I really want that Chompy for the kiddo.
Yeah, I kind of had my heart set on one of those because I thought it might not be too expensive and so on. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think I'm kind of half interested, and then I hear it, and I think, ooh, actually. And I do like I mean, we've said it before. I like the idea of things you can take with you. I like the idea of folding in any kind of sort of real world sound or something happening or vibrating or something. I just think it adds an extra dimension to whatever music that you're doing. But yeah, I mean, looks like we're going to have a lot of coffee machine steam wand hi-hats and stuff music in the future for people sampling on the fly. It's not a bad thing though. What's the retail price on it though?
Well, it's a Kickstarter right now. The Kickstarter campaign they got a pledge of, well, they're nearly there actually. So they're
Yeah, 99 of
$99,000.
106. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're there. It says, according to Synthtopia, if I bring this up, I think it's around about $400. Let me just double check.
I think
No,
Chompy was
sorry,
going to
I'm
be
way off. 600.
500.
This is
Okay.
$600.
So they're kind of all in
Yeah.
this 500, 800 range.
Yeah. I did forget to mention, which I should have mentioned, it also has a step sequencer in that as well.
Mm.
So that's quite fun, if you're into that as well. So like
I think
600.
for money it would have to, wouldn't it, really? Because you think you are kind of, I don't know, you're putting yourself in competition with things like the SP404. And I've got a black box as well, so I don't know that I
And
desperately
MPC,
need
right?
another.
The MPC one is what?
Yeah.
600, 700?
Hmm.
The MPC one's not that different in price. So
It's
there's a lot of competition.
Yeah, I wonder how, I mean, they marketed it a little bit more as curiosities and something a bit funky and a bit different, which I think is a good thing. But I wonder if that slightly less serious approach means that when you put it neck and neck with something that is a bit more traditional, that it might look like a second place.
Possibly, but I mean, you look at like the Live and Lo-Fi 12, which has a lot of limitations, but I think it's only $300 or something. That's been really popular, and that's kind of that whole. It's just catering to that lo-fi-esque type of sound. Like I think it's 12-bit and all that. And on that note, because
that's $300 go wrong, can you?
Yeah, and David says, speaking of Sonicware, but David says about this, love it, but had to talk with myself about learning my sample track. Yeah, that's worth learning for sure.
I think it's I mean, I don't mind these early. I mean, you talk about Luca, for example, getting the chompy for Luca. Like the notion of having, I don't. There's an innocence in sampling, right? So like, there's that's where the basis of sound is. No, it's the basis of like creating a track. So you could, as a little 5-year-old, model up, record the TV doing something of, I don't know, Peppa Pig or whatever it happens to be. 4-year-olds listen to Peppa Pig. 6
Paw
might be a bit
Patrol,
old
right?
for that. Yeah, Paw Patrol, exactly. And then that is the very beginnings of that creative experience. So if it is an easy HUD, and if it is a kind of like a sort of a key kind of way of looking at it, I say go for it, because we want to indoctrinate them early. You want to get them involved.
Well, I'd like to
I mean?
add to that because I was talking with my wife about this, and I was thinking, like, I first learned piano, but I absolutely hated it because it was all rigid scales. You have to learn how to play this. You have to learn how to read notes. And I mean, I took to it in the sense that I was able to do it and stuff, but I hated it, so I stopped doing it. And then it wasn't until I got into guitar and self-teaching originally, because I just wanted to learn like punk songs and stuff like that, that I really started feeling that more like I could do what I wanted to do and express myself in the way that I like felt like I needed to. And that like opened it. And then I got into all of the rigid, learning music theory and stuff like that. So I think having things like this is important, that are fun ways of learning, rather than just sticking with like, oh, learn this dogmatic viewpoint of music theory or this and that's. Like, hey, just take some sounds and do crazy stuff with it and see what happens. And then hopefully if they enjoy it, they'll want to continue and learn other ways.
Sure. That's almost a half segue into our round robin for later today. But I mean, we have to relate that one.
I guess I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, we'll get there. It'll be about creator anxiety and stuff, but yeah. Anything else on this topic, chat? Do you have anything you want to add about this sampler synth?
Let's see where it goes. I think there's something there in the notion of more and more sampling is coming through, and I think that's a beautiful thing to do, especially in this world where everything's copyrighted. And this world is taking something and then just sampling it and removing that completely. That, to me, that's just for the man.
That is a weird dichotomy, that copyright's never been stricter at being sensed, right? With YouTube copyright and stuff like that, and yet sampling also has taken, I feel like, is taking bigger and bigger roles in music production. That's an interesting talk for a round robin, perhaps. at some
It's
point.
almost as if we live in this hyper-normalized simulation where nothing makes sense and we're just going to
Oh,
go
let's
crazy.
not get into simulation theory. It's too early for that, man, and it's too late for you guys. We got to both be at like lunchtime for that, where we had some coffee. We're in our existential dread period. We can get really really deep into the weeds about that.
We'd like to know, you guys listening in the chat or listening back on a Saturday on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Is this something that speaks to you? Is this something that you would vibe with? What would you use it for? What would you want to sample? There is so much here. Please let us know. We'd love to know what is going on in your world.
Why would it be better than something that you already have, maybe?
Ooh.
Bearing in mind,
Eon
most stores have this, potential to sample things, although obviously you need to somehow get the sound into your DAW, but, it's never been easier to sample. So what would this give you? Is it the portability? Let us know.
Is it the sound design of it, the lo-fi-esque
Mm.
sound? Because sometimes hardware is just better at doing that than a plugin or something like that.
Sometimes it's just the right tool is the question. And I also wonder if the price point is right. What do you think?
It's a good question. Yeah.
This is why we need to have a dedicated channel just for Eon Lake. It's like Big Think, but just Eon Lake think big when it comes to music production. He just asks the question. It's just a 10-second video of just Eon Lake asking questions, because that's the key question right there.
I'm trying to think of a alliterative thing with like, Eon, but the E's making it hard, but something I'll get there. I'll think about it. We'll make we can make a segment per episode that's something like, existential Eon Lake something. I need one word that starts with an E that describes what I'm thinking. And I'm not there yet, but again, I've only had one cup of coffee so far. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Let's on that note, let's have a look across to Landr, because someone is very keen to bring this up today. I'm going to share the main website, and so people can see what we're talking about here. This is a brand new Landr have got a brand new
sort of brand new. I mean, it's a brand new plugin, but it's a plugin, but it's Landr doing what they do, which is their mastering. I actually didn't know they also distribute. And perhaps we can get Lars either later or in the chat or on the Discord to discuss, because Lars said that he uses Landr for distributing. So I'm curious why you'd go through them rather than something like DistroKid or in a free one, what is Root Note or something like that. But today we're talking about the mastering. So they've been doing AI mastering for quite a long time, but recently they just announced and released this Landr Mastering Plugin. And so it's $300 if you buy it outright. Or you can get it with, I'm not sure how much the cost is, but it seems like it's a monthly subscription for Landr Studio Pro. So if you don't mind scrolling down a little bit, I just want to go over the plugin a bit, and then I want to bring up some questions that I want to talk with you guys about it, but also with the chat. But so fast, simple AI mastering, you get to choose between 3 types. This is what you do on Landr in general: warm, balanced, and open. They all have different sort of what they say, like dynamics and things like that. If you'll keep going down, please, good sir. Keep going. I want to show, once you do that, this was always kind of my gripe with Landr, is you didn't get a lot of nuance after the fact, but now you actually get some control over what it's doing. Because like I've had clients, I master for people, and I've had clients send me masters from Landr that were much louder than 0. Like they were clipping in the red at like +4 dB or something. And so I was always interested, like, is there a way to kind of control it? And now, at least, I don't know if the normal Landr does this, but on the plugin, you can control the loudness, the presence. You can do de-essing, which is kind of cool. I don't know if I'd de-ess right on the master bus if I was going for the vocals, but it's there. There's equalization. There's stereo field. You can control the dynamics. So I like that it adds this sort of nuance. But what I wanted to kind of bring up, a few things. Does anyone think there's a purpose for AI in music production? And if so, how far do you think it goes? Because like we always talk about on Audionautic, using AI kind of as an assistant where you can get started with something, an idea generator or something like that. And I can kind of see this working in that way, where either it democratizes mastering for people who don't have the money to pay but don't know how to master. They can kind of get a baseline with this, but also they can kind of use it as a reference, like a start point, and then adjust it. You could even put an EQ before it and do additional things on top of it and things like that. So I'm curious to hear where you guys, let's start there. Curtis, what about you? Where would you place AI in music production? Would you considered using it as a sort of assistant, seeing EQ curves and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. As an assistant and as a way to get to where I need to be, yeah.
Would you
It's
use it as like the final, like, okay, no changes, just here it goes?
Oh, I have done, and I have when I was making music for TV, I used it all the time, mainly because you throw a load in there and it does it all for you, and then bish bash bosh, you're done, that kind of thing. Um, and for things for production where you're making music, which will essentially at the end of the day play at minus 30 dB underneath something else, it doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, I would use it completely for that. So for a product or for something that is not going to be enjoyed or experienced for the music for what it is, then yeah, for sure, I have, and I would continue to do so. If I was when I do private work for a client and I master the work, I would use it as a guide and then disable it and then kind of see where I'm getting at, that kind of thing
Yeah,
from
see,
there and build it
what
from
I
there.
think it loses is that human element of nuance.
Yes,
Like, I've checked
completely.
out a lot of
Yeah.
these masters, and a lot of times it'll just do big sweeping cuts or raise EQ, like, just from 500 to 900, and then you get all the nastiness that comes up because it's a master.
Mm.
Whereas if you just did nuanced cuts, like, just notch cuts where you take out the resonance peaks or something like that, which unless it's changed, and that's one thing I want to talk about in terms of AI learning incredibly fast, and so things can change and stuff. It's not doing that. And when it comes to compression, it's set with the compressor that it has. You can't test around with different types of compression. You can't mess around with, I want this type of like knee and things like that. And just seeing, maybe do two compressors that are doing 1 dB each instead of 2 dB or 3 dB and one multi-band compression, things like that. You're kind of set with it. And it's just, it seems like it takes the widest net, like, we'll just master like most songs would need to be mastered. We're not going to take the nuance for this song, which is at this dB and this and that. And again, I haven't messed with it in quite a while. So one thing with AI is it changes exponentially all the time because it's continually learning. So that is something I'd like to do. So if you want us to check this out, hit up Landr on social media, just tag us or something if you want us to try to get this. I think it would be interesting to do a sort of comparison between a master and a Landr master just to see. But I think it's a really cool start point, and just the democratization, or like you're saying, Curtis, with things that maybe are going to be quieter. If you're just making for social media, but you want it to be at a competitive level in your social posts or promotion posts, you can just quickly throw it through that and have something that's at this sort of polished level. Ian, like, what's your take on this?
Well, is there a replacement for a talented and experienced mastering engineer with a suite of high fidelity, very musical and deliberately selected pieces of equipment, working on your music to hone it to perfection? Absolutely not. Of course there isn't. So this is clearly something else, right? It's not even supposed to be that. It's obviously going to be some sort of compromise, right? And good mastering costs money, and not, like you say, that I think the podcasting and things like that, it is an ideal thing for tools like this. I think it depends a little bit as to where you are and what you want. For me, I've got this ill thought out and ill conceived idea that AI, from my point of view, is there to do the stuff that I don't want to do. And when it comes to mastering and things like that, it's still, well, no, that's just kind of like the fun stuff. I don't want AI to take all the fun away. It can do all the crappy jobs, it can do the washing and all the rest of it, but I want to still do the fun. Otherwise, what's the point of all of this? If you're working in any sort of artistic medium. But I'm happy to use it as a tool sometimes. But yeah, I think it depends where your head's at and what you want to do. I'm still looking at AI as being time-saving, labor-saving tools. But for me personally, there aren't many all-in-one solutions from a mastering point of view that will do what I want to do.
That's the other thing.
I
You're
still
stuck
find
with
it,
their sound sources, right? Their type of compression, their type of loudness. Same with like an isotope or something. I mean, they work for certain things. It's just like if you want that nuance, you're spot on. Yeah, Jan Lake.
Yeah, and I think I would still recommend having a few different tools in your arsenal that fall into different areas. I mean, there's the ones that you will use on absolutely everything, and then there are other like imperfection removal tools and things like that. You're probably going to want all of these if you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff yourself. And yeah, I mean, there are. I think the isotope does quite well when you're looking at an all-in-one solution. But even then, I would never use what it throws out. I would always be doing something else. I'm usually using another bit of kit as well, another plugin or something else in the chain. And for me, I think the most useful help that you can get with mastering is your output levels and what you get at the end and what that will sound like on the various places that you're going to hear it because of the different average loudness levels. It's the lufts, isn't it, Sunwarper? Got to get those lufts right.
It's always the lufts, man.
Yeah. So some good monitoring that shows you that, and whether or not various streaming services are going to undo some of what you're doing because you're trying to pitch a master somewhere in the middle a lot of the time. That's where I think the most help is useful. As far as making something sound good and being able to listen to it and assess it, I can do that bit. It's some of the levelings and monitoring. I think can be a bit more useful and making sure that you don't mishit there on your final level when it goes out.
Yeah.
On that note, just to add to that, I think from marketing yourself as an independent producer, if you're on, say, Fiverr or Upwork, or if you're just on Instagram or whatnot, if you have access to an AI plugin such as this or Ozone or whatever, it allows you to upsell, which I found really useful. So you can, if you have a client, they come to you and say, "Hey, can you master my track?" You say, "Yeah, sure. What kind of mastering do you want?" And they're like, "There's different types of mastering." And like, "Yeah, sure. If you want, I can give you an AI master, which will be quicker and cheaper, or I can give you a human one, which will be more nuanced and will be something probably to a higher standard." And inevitably, that allows you to upsell your work, so to speak, and you can kind of create those tiers. It also, on the backside of it, on the flip side of it, not the backside would be a very different place in which to be, but the notion of, if you're working with, say, a new producer who might not have the funds, you can say, "Hey, look, I can't really do this for you, but for this, I can do you an AI master, and it'll get you to it'll be the loudness that you need. It might not be what you the pinnacle of what you could have, but for your price, it keeps you in the market," if that makes sense.
May I play the always present audionautic devil's advocate?
Yay!
Okay, so here's I was thinking about this today. I had the exact same yin and yang, bro. I had the exact same thought, like, oh, you could have these tiers of like, oh, if I charge this much, well, if you want like this much, we can do an AI master, or the in between, I could do like tweak what it does and add before and after, this and that. But if you say to someone, I charge this much for a master, or I can do an AI master for this much, in my head, if someone told me that, I would think, well, why don't I just do the AI master?
You don't have access to a $300 plugin, perhaps.
But then if you didn't know that and then you learn that, I mean, at some point you're going to have value over, if you're paying someone per song, let's say X amount, it will add up to 300 at some point, and that's only, let's say, 10 songs or something, right? Or 5 songs. But if you buy a $300 plugin and you do all the masters yourself, you could master 30, 40, 50 ad infinitum.
You can, but for example, there's a reason like that gets into a whole thing about the culture around mastering, right? Now, David's comment, if you want to put that up, is a really good access to it, right? I think mastering is usually the last thing we focus on, and do we even have the time / energy to learn it properly? I don't, to be honest. Now, you're completely right and you're completely correct. Why don't you just buy a plugin and do it all yourself?
See,
right?
my thing is, you don't have to learn on the AI master, right?
you don't. But like, for example, right? I know how to master, but I still send all my masters to you. You're a better mastering engineer, and I like how you master my stuff. You have a sound, you have a workflow, and you have a thing, and that is something you've cultivated over time. I think once you can go buy $300 of worth of plugins, and you could master all of AI stuff. But once you get into the game and you understand, been around for a long time, and you work with people, you understand that to this point, humans still have a relationship with mastering, and we still have a relationship with other people, and there's that is a whole other process of it. It's not just a case of wham bam, thank you ma'am, hey, put it on Spotify. There's a whole back and forth and a discussion about what you wanted to do, and I think that's still important. I think AI isn't doing that at this stage still.
No, I agree completely, but I mean, I'm just curious over time, like look at artwork. How many people are just using AI artwork now instead of taking the photos themselves, or using an artist to draw it or something? All I'm getting at is if someone is presenting this, hey, I can do an AI master for you for this much, or I can master it myself. I almost wonder if it somewhat, I like the idea as well, like you're saying, but does it devalue the human master that you're offering? Because to them, they might, well, why don't I just do the AI master? And I'm not saying everybody thinks this way, but I could see a large contingent being like, well, $300 one purchase, and I can master as many songs as I want for as long as I want every year. I just see, there's a lot of talk right now, the scariness of, is AI going to replace jobs and stuff like that. Like it's that slippery slope. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. And I agree that the nuance isn't there. And like David is saying, it's not something a lot of people want to focus on or learn, but it can really make or break a song, especially like working with objective ears, which is something the AI is not doing. I mean, yeah, it's not you that's mastering it, but you still have the final call on what's being done on it. Whereas if you give it to another person, they're like, hey, I've not worked on the song for 6 months and I have objective ears, like the hi-hat's too loud or the drums are too loud or this or that, which you might not notice because you've been so close to it. Yeah, well, for you, yeah, I didn't want to, fire shots at you, but or the bass is too loud, Curtis. Yes, but yeah, it's an interesting discussion. This is exactly why I wanted to bring it up. All of these topics, it's just like they were just all swirling in my brain, like all these thoughts. So I wanted to talk about it with you all and with chat. And I'm curious, chat, have you guys used AI mastering? What did you think? Have you ever released a song with just the AI master? That one I'm very curious on. But yeah, have you? Well, Curtis, you said you have, but it's not your own music, right? It's just kind of like when you're getting it out for a commercialized product.
Yeah, so a commercialized project, I have done. I don't work with them anymore. I have done. We used Landr's AI, and it was fine. I have experience where AI has mastered tracks that we have done. I've collaborated with other artists, and I mean, it's fine. It does the job. It's -10, -9 LUFS, and it's loud. It's not a Sunwarper master though, so it's like
well, that's the thing. Like LUFS and meters aren't always everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because the different things something could sound very loud, but depending on if there's something in the mix that's overpowering, that's peaking at that LUF. It's not the full mix, right? So it could sound weak overall.
There are also artistic considerations as far as what is the heart of the song, what drives it, what is the thing, and maybe how do you structure your mix or enhance a mix that is already structured to try and make sure that is preserved, kept forefront, treated the best, I don't know. It makes you wonder. I think so. Also, with a tool that's AI based, but yet also has controls on it. Is that the best of both worlds? And
that's still what I was getting at. I think that makes a bit of a difference, because if you get the master and you're like, well, it's way too loud or something, you now are able to kind of tweak it, or you can at least have some control over what it's doing, yet you don't have to have all of the knowledge. I still don't think you'll get this amazing master out of it, but I like this democratization. That's what I brought up at the start, where like you have this ability if you can afford mastering or something, and then maybe as you start learning it, you'll consider hiring someone to help you, because you're like, well, if I can get it to sound this good, I bet if I get some objective ears from a pro, like it's only going to get better. And you want to we all love what we're putting out and want to make it the best we can. So I think it's cool to have that kind of step, to Curtis's point, to a degree, of having these tiers and stuff. Real quick before I read the chat, Lars, you posted in the Discord. I didn't see if you said it's cool if I read it. So if you can, because I see you put something in the chat, just let me know if I can read that. But David says you have to understand what AI is doing, or it's a crapshoot. Yeah, definitely. And there, I think, is kind of the middle ground of where Ian Lake and I are talking. Like, you have these controls on this, but if you don't know what you're doing, like let's say you put the DS up because you think, oh, you could take out all of the sibilants and stuff like that, or something that you might need some so that the voice sounds human and doesn't have this like crazy sound to it, or it might take all the hi-hats out because it's de-essing the hi-hats or something. So I get what you mean. Lars also says, I have used AI mastering, don't like it. I'll use the AI on Ozone, but then go back and tweak to taste. So yeah, that's definitely a way to do it. And he says I can read off. So I'm going to read what he says in the Discord. So if you want to join our Discord, the link is in the description. This is from the patron chat. If you want to head to patreon.com/audionautic, you can join. You get the Discord chat, a Twitter group. You also get some bonus content, additional podcasts and things like that. But it's a great way to help the show as well. But anyways, he says, so I use Landr for distribution only. I've played with their AI mastering before, and it gets inconsistent results. Most of the time, the mix is way too airy and loud for my tastes. I think it works well if you're working in certain genres such as pop, hip hop, EDM, because those are what traits of a good master in those genres. When it comes to ambient type stuff, I think it overcooks everything. Yeah, I mean, I've had masters and stuff for pop and things like that, but I mean, it's still not taking that nuance. Like I said, like it's not going to give you the feedback of your drums are way too loud. That's why we hit -10 LUFS. But if you took the drums down and mixed them a little better, added some bus compression on the drums to get them all to fit better, maybe limit the drums so they all hit at the same level, we could get it to -10 with a much louder sound or something. It's not going to do that for you. It's just going to do the best it can for that master with not really any feedback. So there's just things to consider. David also says,
interesting that you said that, because sometimes when you're mastering, the best decision, if you're doing it yourself, is actually revising the mix a bit. If you do actually have a problem where
it's always the best is always revising the mix, whether you're hiring someone or
you could stamp on it with a brick wall limiter, or you could just deal with it in the mix and go gentler on the mastering, which is probably a better idea.
When I'm working with clients, we always do revisions because it's just the best way. Because usually, you get something that sounds good in the mix, but once you start adding all these things on the master chain, stuff's going to come up that you either aren't hearing because you're listening at a lower level than what it's bringing it up to, or the compression and things like that are going to bring things up that you weren't expecting in there, or when you tweak something, so usually you want to have at least 1 or 2 revisions and stuff. And I mean, you can hear what the AI master's doing and then from your own judgment change things, but you're not getting that objective ear that's going to be like, hey, the kick was really loud. That's why this is hitting where we want it to, but it sounds kind of weaker compared to your reference track or something like that. So yeah, let's see. We've got one more chat. Before that, the Discord link is in the description. It's free for all to join the Discord. The link's right there. But yeah, if you want to be in the patron group where we're talking about all this stuff, patreon.com/audionautic. David says, my personal belief is that it may stunt your mixes going forward. Is that using AI, David, you're talking about? That's an interesting take. If you care to elaborate, I would like to hear that. Lars says, put your foot down on it really hard if the client is a cheap ass. Well, that's why you put in the contract how many revisions there are and all that type of stuff. And then you go from there. If you run out of revisions, then you deal with it at that point. Anything else before we move on? Oh, we got a couple more chats actually. But Jens, do you have anything else you want to say before we move on to the round robin? I'll read these chats though. But Ian, like anything you want to add?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Shady says, we usually do 3 different masters per release to choose from. No AI. I would like to hear this. Are you talking that you do 3 different sort of dynamics or 3 different types of mastering chains? Like different, we're hitting hot, like kind of like what the AI is doing here, where you have warm, balanced, dynamic. Are you doing that sort of thing? Or are you just testing out different stuff? I would love to hear that. But we can move over to the round robin. And if you would all like to expand on what you're saying, David, and
before we go,
JD, post it.
I do usually do 2 masters, a digital master and a streaming master. just
Ah,
because of the relative levels. So the Bandcamp masters will always be louder.
interesting. Now, are you doing that because of this whole thing about Spotify wants -14 LUFS, iTunes wants -16? Is that why you're doing it? Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff about that. We could talk about it at some point. But see, they're taking overall. So even if you have a song at like -7 at peaks, but the overall is like -12, it's not going to limit it as much. So
it's
it's
average. It's not peak.
yeah, I don't like doing the two different things for that reason. I mean, I'll do it if someone wants it done, but I don't think it's worth it. And also, that's at least on Spotify, from what I remember, that's only if someone is using the auto normalize. Like there's a level setting in your Spotify settings, which you can say, oh, make everything normalized to be the same sound. But I mean, I'll notice some songs from big artists, when you have that normalization on, they'll be so quiet, like when you're driving, and then another song comes on, and it's because of the mastering wars from, a couple of years back and stuff. So I don't know if it's worth it personally, but that is a good point. I mean, there's always that option. I also like to do masters between about, like, hit the highs at -12 or -10, and then average be more about -14, just so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. But yeah, that's a good point, Ian. Like, something interesting to consider. Curtis, anything you want to add, just in case? Because Ian Lake had that light bulb pop.
I think we're good. I think we've done that. I'd like to know, just to reiterate, people listening back on Saturday when we drop it on Spotify and Apple Music, what do you think? Where are you with this? Is this something that you would use? Have you used it? What are your results? I'm keen to get to the round robin because we've got a couple of people in the green room. So let's move on.
Yeah, David, I saw you put yes. I would love, maybe you are, but I would love to see you expand on it. We can talk about it despite moving over to the round robin. So before we let everybody in, I think Survey Channel might have had to drop out, but if you're coming back, just hop back in. We'll get you in. But Curtis, do you mind explaining what the round robin is for those if they're new to the show? We've seen a lot of new listeners on Spotify. We've got new analytics thanks to podcasting for Spotify. So there's a lot of impressions coming from Spotify search and stuff. If you enjoy the show, consider hitting follow. You can join our Discord. The link is in the show notes. But yeah, what is the round robin? And then what are we talking about today? Because you brought this to the table and I think it's quite interesting.
So the round robin in its entity as a thing is the discussion aspect of the show. As a community, we have a topic of discussion, and the aim of the idea and the aims involved is the notion of sharing one's own experiences to trade tips and tricks so that we as a community can grow. Because together we grow. They can be existential. They can be about, a bit like they are today, about the mental and the side of creation that's inside our head. They can be production related physically, and go straight to the notion of how do we do this? How do we do that? What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? And they could be anything. If it's related to music production and it's a discussion, this is where we tend to have it at this part of the show. This week, we're talking about ways in which we can deal with what we came up with, the idea of creation anxiety. In the modern world of the independent musician, we have to wear a lot of hats. We're not just a music producer, we're also a marketer, we're also a video maker, we're everything. We create content. We're creating, the content is what it is. The music is now not just the music, is the content. And that creates a lot of anxiety, and there's a big rush of emotions in my subjective experience, at least sometimes. And I want to share ways in which we can kind of deal with that and return to a more balanced nature. So that's what we're discussing today. We did have Survey Channel in the chat. Sadly, it looks like he's dropped, but we do have Lars.
Well, Lars is on, but his camera's not on, so I don't want to put him on unless he's ready. So Lars, just make sure if you're good to come on and talk your take on this, just open up your camera and hit the thumbs up. I'll let you in, or give me a thumbs up. But let's start with you, Curtis. Do you mind starting this topic, and then we'll go. Ian Lake and I will share our thoughts. But I'd really like to hear from you first, because you brought it. I want to hear what you're dealing with specifically. And I think this is kind of started with what we were talking about on our Patron Hangout Star stream on Sunday, right?
Yeah. So this started from our conversation about the idea that whenever we're on our own, or whether if we're not live streaming, or if we're not putting something out into the world, generally speaking, the production tends to be a bit better, or the ideas tend to come a bit more fluidly, and you don't have that looking over your shoulder kind of idea, especially like when we go live and stuff like that. I can safely say that the test runs I have for my live streams always go a lot better than my actual live streams. Now, so for me, I started the idea of that the benefits are not hit and record. So like I have albums which I make on the live stream, and I have sounds which I make, and I have things that I actively I'm posting about and talking about and sharing about and things like that. But then I have an album which no one knows about until it's actually released, or the promo has it been released. And these are the ones, this is in the sessions that I'm making where there is no recording, there's no camera in my face, there's no screen recording or anything like that. And this is where for me at least, this is where I tend to come into my flow state. This is where I tend to make the best stuff, or the stuff that speaks to me most innocently. I'm most vulnerable, I'm most innocent. And this for me reminds me that I call it the John moment. It's where I return to doing and reminding myself this is why I do it, and this is what it's all about. And I can get caught up in the day-to-day of trying to get more exposure so more people listen to my music, and I can grow, and this can become more of my full-time work. But really, at the end of the day, I just enjoy making music, and I kind of enjoy just doing what I'm doing. And I have all these flashing lights and blibbly boops and cats that sit on my synthesizer, but I could do it without this platform that we have inside. That's my take.
I'm just writing some things down. I finally have a pen and a notebook, so I don't have to click and clack when I'm typing, because my keyboard's very clicky. So I can start, but Jan, like if you have something you'd like to add first, I can finish this train of thought. And I know my handwriting is terrible.
So
I haven't really written much
about sort of red light fever, or
yes, I can. So yesterday or Monday when we were planning the episode, I was like, I could not remember that term for the longest time. I asked ChatGPT. I was Googling it, and I was Googling like I forget what I was Googling, but it was not coming up with the right search terms, and I could not remember. And then we finally found it, red light fever. But we were like, let's think of a different term, because like Curtis wasn't familiar with the term, so I was like, we need to think of something. So I think that's kind of how it started, red light fever.
Yeah. But it's broader.
Google search was a difficult situation.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But that's how it started, and I think that's a good place to start if you want to unlake. But more to the point, what we're kind of talking today, at least what Curtis is struggling with, and I think this is important because it's kind of bigger than red light fever now. It's no longer hitting record on Logic or on Ableton, since apparently it's heresy to say any other DAW. But anyways, it's more than just hitting record on your DAW, right? It would be now, if you want to try to make it in the music industry, everyone will tell you, or most people will tell you, or the gurus will tell you, have that camera on, have a vertical camera, have this and that, have that recording, live stream it so that people can interact with you, and that they can follow you on your journey. And it's all about exposure and this and that. And so I think, Curtis, I know you already kind of explained it. I don't want to speak falsely on it or elaborate more than needed, but it's kind of that, like, I think Curtis was saying in our Star stream that he finds he's so much more relaxed. Probably that's why, but just he enjoys the process more and finds better music comes out when he's not doing all of that. So we're just kind of talking about
keywords here coming out. And
so hold on, let me just finish one thing, Like, so I think to make this a round robin basically is to consider two things. One, is there merit in that recording process of having the camera and things like that? And if there is, which me personally, I think there is, and I'll get to that, but you're welcome to feel differently. Of course, everyone has their own opinion, but what can we do to kind of balance that perspective of, yeah, that would be good to have, versus I write so much better and I'm so much more relaxed and I enjoy the process and I'm in the flow state when I'm not doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I rambled for a bit, but I wanted to really.
No, that's good. I think he's kind of hit on the heart of it, really, in that it's about what do you enjoy what you're doing? Is it fun? I mean, you're talking about an artistic endeavor, right? And feeling creative, and you're only going to do that under certain circumstances, and you will know best how how to prepare yourself, or under what conditions you're more likely to be productive. Gamifying what you do, or just taking it easy and not necessarily recording everything, or being recorded while you're creating, might make you feel more comfortable. But I also think if you're going to look at the pros and cons of both of those approaches, you kind of need to do a fair bit of both to really understand what it gives or what it doesn't give you, and what the trade-off is. And if you're not sure, then I think, as Curtis is doing, hedging your bets and doing both and keeping something back for yourself is absolutely a sensible thing to do. I do think ultimately, if I were pushed to it and I were finding like being recorded was interrupting the process of making music, or was preventing me from enjoying it, I do think like there's nothing more important than the music, there's nothing that I wouldn't chuck out the window in favor of it if it came to that, but it won't necessarily. And it might be that making music under lots of different situations and circumstances is actually something that's beneficial to you in your process, and trying to review your process and enhance it and so on. I wouldn't rush to judgment. I believe in evidence-based approach to stuff. If it causes problems for you, it's forget the rules, but do try and enjoy what you do. I think I've struggled a fair bit recently, thinking, I'm wanting to create. I'm wanting to create something really good. There's not much room for substandard stuff, and there's this. You start to put yourself under a lot of pressure if you lose sight why you do this. And if you can just come from a pure place of like, I like doing this, it's an exploration, it's fun, then your output will be better. If you can do that with cameras on you and all the rest of it, and it doesn't bother you as much, and you can still focus on that, then you're not going to run into so many problems. But I don't know, you might need to mix it up a bit, see how you manage. I think it depends on the person a lot, really, and where you're at mentally and how you respond to these things. I get quite jumpy when I'm being filmed. I hate being filmed. I don't mind being recorded, but I always had trouble, and still do. I don't play as well when it's being recorded. But these days I don't worry about it so much either, because if you wanted to make it absolutely perfect, you can do that. It's more about capturing ideas and being able to go on long enough without having to stop, drop in and stuff like that, which breaks my flow up. But yeah, what do you think, Sunwarper?
All right, I was hoping you would ask. I was just
What's the
hoping you would ask.
benefits of your furious note taking?
So it's a bit chaotic, but I'll start actually kind of near the bottom or the middle, and then work my way up. But so I think what you're saying is spot on. It really depends on the person and what works for you. I would also say, and this isn't even on my notes, but like, I don't like being in front of the camera. For long-time listeners of Audionautic, you'll know, like, we started not doing video because, like, I mean, hopefully Curtis was nervous too, but my nerves being in front of a camera, like video-wise and stuff. And the more I've done, the more I feel comfortable and can present things and feel like I'm on a journey with the audience and with the chat and with people. And I think overcoming those fears and becoming comfortable in those situations is good, because like, now I'm not as nervous if I'm going to go play live. Like, I used to be so nervous about live shows, but now it's like, I'm doing the reps, Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but I'm getting used to being in front of an audience, even if it's a live stream or something. But I also think it's also how you think about the camera, right? So Curtis, you said this, and this is what got me vigorously taking notes. You said the camera's for your exposure, for promotion. I'm not writing music for me. I'm writing it for, can I get people to watch? Can I get people to, like, join and things like that? You mentioned exposure. So one thing I want to say is think about the camera differently. It's not for exposure, it's for capturing moments, right? Whether you're sharing it or not, it's like another DAW. You're recording these things because when you have those moments of flow, when you have those moments of joy, you have them recorded. So when you're feeling like this song is shit 6 months later, when you've been working on a hi-hat for like 2 weeks, you can look back and be like, oh, this was when I was enjoying that thing. When I wrote that, I was like in the flow state, and you can get that. It's 5 years since I've done Sunwarper. I was looking because I'm looking at old videos and stuff. I have all the recordings of when I recorded the song Lost Coast. It was so interesting seeing all this stuff from 5 years ago and seeing like what's different, how my play style is different, all that stuff. And I never even posted those. I just had them so I could theoretically build stuff. And now I'm going to do something with it. But it was just there to give me, like, I was just watching back and like, wow. Because like in Starstream, Curtis, we were talking about missing that sort of exploratory time when you're like learning things. And this was that time. I was watching it in real time, seeing like, oh, I was figuring out how to make these random automations and stuff like that. And so it was awesome to see that. So I would say don't think about the camera for validation, exposure, social media promotion. It's there to just capture moments. And if you find something you think you can share, that's great. And then in terms of actual live stuff, I guess it just kind of comes down to like, are you, when it comes to like, and I'm with you, Curtis, like when I do hit that live button and go live, the song never turns out the way like a draft turned out, right? But that's all part of the process. You're having a journey with the viewer rather than that isolated expression. And you can always keep for the real release, if you're going to release it, the original one, if you have it, or, you know, have both to be like the live version and this and that. And so I think it's kind of just to deal with the creative anxiety is to kind of look at these sort of perspectives. And if you're comfortable doing these things, that's the big caveat. Because like Eon Lake was saying, if you just don't like it, and maybe it's no amount of just exposure and practicing and getting through it is going to help. Like it's just not who you are. You don't want to present yourself, then don't do it. But if you feel like there's something you can do, or if you want to work on getting through, if you have anxiety about it, it's not just like, I don't want to do this. It's like, I get nervous on it. Then just baby steps and work through these things. And it comes out really different in the end. That's, I think, all of my notes. So let me know if there's anything you want me to expand on. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So I hope that helps. But that's kind of how I've developed over 5 years of doing this stuff.
I think, yeah. Oh, sorry, dude. He evidently didn't like what you had to say, so
or he liked it so much he's off to create. He went towards the keyboards.
Yeah.
Where's he going? He's behind.
Let's just pretend he went to the keyboards and you know.
I think, yeah, it's one little expansion on that before we get Lars in, because I can see him in the green room and he looks like he's enjoying his cigar out in the sun and he's waving.
Which is going to just get us knocked for explicit tobacco usage. Way to go, Lars. Way to go.
I think it's like jazz. I think it's like jazz. I think it's the notion of you play a note which seems a bit off and seems a bit different to what you're doing, but then repetition and repetition and repetition, it comes through and suddenly evolves into this brand new thing. Like you're saying, like it's moments in time in that regard. And that's something that I need to remember for sure, but then need to expand on, is that notion of, like when we started doing this, right? When we started doing this, we were all very anxious and we were all very like, we don't want to do video, we'll do pre-recorded, we'll do all stuff like that, right? Like, take today, for example, we logged on. I mean, I logged on at 1:45. I think you guys turned up about 10 to the hour, which is a lot later than we tend to. But we have
well,
a chill.
I had a valid reason.
Yeah. It's not a problem. What I'm saying, but you know, we've got this docket. We're all prepared. We're all good. You know, we've been doing this for a while now. We've got a relatively what we would call a chill week. We haven't had a heavy week. We've had a bit of a laid back week. And it's like, you know, I'm sipping a beer at 7:30 with Electric Callboy pumping through the speakers.
You mean you're inebriated on this show?
Yeah,
we need you at your peak, man. None of this Lars stuff. All right, no, I'm just kidding. Lars. Raising his hands like, what? I'm just joking, Lars.
Speaking, let's get him in, because Lars is a content creator and he creates lots of. He also happens to be a patron.
Add one thing before we let Lars in. I just want to hammer home. It's this: don't worry about exposure and promotion. Think about it as just the journey and sharing the journey. I think that narrative shift takes a lot of pressure off. And I'm sorry, Lars, I didn't mean to bring you in. I really want to hammer that home, because that's something that this year I've really learned, is like letting go of this. Like, I got to have this content that's pushing this album for 2 weeks, then do this and then do that. It's like, no, just the journey. And people, if they so choose, are joining you on the journey, and you're just expressing yourself. You're not doing promotion, and I'm appeasing algorithms. It's the audience. I'm trying to find and talk with my fans and people who want to hear from me. And if people are kind enough to join me on the journey, that's awesome. And here we go. But it's not owed to you because you're putting out content that the algorithm's going to pick you up and stuff like that. Really quick too, just David expanded on that AI thing. Basically, collaboration is important for learning. Totally. And I mean, I think that's also, just to sidetrack it back to the round robin, that's like the point of these. We all talk about these things and can learn from it. And then he also says, I am anxious by nature, so I guess I'm getting used to it as an artist. Yeah, totally. Let's hear from Lars' take. Lars, what's your take on this? Let me let you in. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. I like the outside ambiance you're bringing.
Oh, it's very nice. The sun is intense here, though, I gotta admit.
I love how you have glasses on, not sunglasses. Like, it looks like the sun's right in front of you.
Well, my sunglasses, so now I'm just suffering. I'm good, though.
There you go. Suffer through it. Yeah. So what's your take on this, Lars?
So when it comes to creating, like, I know you guys were mentioning earlier about, maybe just don't hit record, just kind of play around a little bit. So whenever I'm kind of searching for, like, oh, well, what's my next, like, thing I'm going to do? What's the next concept I want to touch on? A lot of times what I'll do is I'll get on, I'll open one of my synthesizers, and I'll just start kind of playing around. I'll add this, I'll tweak that. And then a big thing I like to do is, stop it.
Hey, he agrees with you.
One of my favorite things to do is, like, I'll just make up a preset and I'll save it, and then I'll come back to it a little later, and I'll see if I can work that into something that I've already created, or if I just want to make something brand new off of it. But a big thing is I like to just kind of like doodle around mostly. And that's where a lot of my concepts come from. I don't like the idea of, like, record everything you do, save everything. Sometimes it's actually pretty, like, freeing to, like, just play around for a little bit and then save absolutely nothing.
Now, Lars, what's your take, though, specifically on, like, if you want to make promotion, so to speak, like videos out of these things? What's your take?
I'm not that great at promotion, though, is the problem.
Okay. So why is that? Do you feel like kind of where Curtis is at? Like, you don't like what happens when you hit record on that? Or is it just you just don't enjoy doing?
I think a big problem for me is, like, whenever I'm creating stuff, I'm getting, like, lost in the moment kind of thing. And when like sit down and think, like, oh, well, I need to make, like, a video or something of me doing something, it kind of just becomes like an afterthought. So what ends up happening most of the time is I'll sit down and I'll doodle and I'll come up with something. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I should have the camera on now. And then I'll try and, like, recreate what I'm doing, and it never comes out as first time around. So I feel like I'm just trying to, like, capture lightning in a bottle all over again.
Well, what about just, like, performing apart from a song that's coming out? Or even just recording your DAW screen as the stuff is playing?
I have done that a couple of times before, and one second, please.
Well, why don't we bring in Survey Channel, because I see you there. He's back. The Wizard Man is back. Let's get Survey Channel in, and then or Lars, you're back. So let me bring Survey Channel in, get his take, and then let's expand on that. I appreciate that. Survey Channel, what's your take on this?
Well, it's a good question and a good topic, rather. My take is I get overwhelmed with sort of thinking about this type of thing, like sort of presenting myself to people and how I can promote myself as a creator more so as a musician. So I know it's sort of wrapped up in, sort of these waves of emotions that I go through over the course of, I guess, my daily life and just things that I'm experiencing, in my personal life. So I've come to find that I I put too much sort of emphasis on pleasing people and pleasing fans, I guess. So I've kind of taken a step back from that, and I'm kind of seeing where it goes. But yeah, it's the whole creative anxiety thing is something I feel almost every day. And
Ditto, man. I'm with you. I think I'm gonna guess to say we all feel that to a bit of a degree. Yeah, it's just I think
you think you're alone in it, don't you?
Yes.
Say again, Jan Lake?
You do feel that, yeah.
You feel like you're the only one like that as well when you do.
Yeah, but that's why we have stuff like this where we can talk about it, because this is a common thing. And I mean, you look like we looked at vidIQ for the hashtags because we were going to do this anyways, and we just searched like how searched is creative anxiety, and it was boom, massively searched every day, always looked at like how to deal with it, how to do this. And so I mean, you are not alone in this. Like we all deal with it every day. Anybody listening, if you feel these things, if you get sketched about, I mean, I remember, like I was saying, 5 years ago, it would take me days to make a post on social media because I was like analyzing every possibility, like, oh, does the camera angle look right or this and that? And I mean, it all sucked anyways because I was learning it all. But that's all part of the process. But I was like, oh, is the text right? Am I saying enough right? And like if you watch these videos on, like I was saying, promotion, where it's, oh, you want to have these sorts of keywords and click-through rates and this, it just becomes so bogged down in these analytics and crap, when really it's all about making the music. And that's why I was saying, like, just change the narrative, change the perspective. Instead of thinking about analytics and algorithms and this, is just expression, and you're just happening to capture these moments. That's what's worked for me. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but that's what's worked for me. Lars, I remember if you said what you were going to say before you tended to the dog. Did you have more you wanted to add?
No, not really. So when you guys say creative anxiety, like what does that mean for you? Is that like you make something and then you doubt yourself about whether you should put it out there or if people are going to like it?
Well, there's a few, but what Curtis is talking about today specifically, I mean, I think overall, but to keep it a little more controlled for the purpose of ending soon, it's really more about he's been doing a lot of live streams and stuff, and it's more like the sharing of the process, right? Curtis, you can elaborate, but that's kind of where we started on this today.
And whether or not it's an obstacle to the process.
Yeah.
So like the notion of having that person in the room, so to speak, or having that for example, I quite frequently forget to look at the chat, for example, and I mean that's fine. It is what it is, right? Because I get locked into it, right?
He doesn't have me there to go, oh, the chat says.
It's just this thing, and it's like, and also it's like if I go live sometimes when my microphone isn't working, I'm like, fuck it, I'm already live and I'm already making, so we'll see, But I suppose what I'm getting at is this notion of when you are aware of the outside world, right? For me, from my subjective experience, when I'm totally, that everything comes down and that there's no one there, and that's when I'm in my flow state. Knowing that there's something playing record, or there's a camera playing, or there's people in the chat or something like that, there's a different. Suddenly, I suppose it's about attention span, which I have very little of it anyway. But you got one eye away from the music, and is that that creates that. Am I going to be at my best? Am I going to be creating the best that I'm going to create if I'm not paying full attention to it? You know what I mean?
What about just finding natural moments in the stream where that's what I do, where you look at the chat, like I keep the chat far to the, I mean, I can't really show my desk, but I'm usually focused here, right? So the computer is it's not this computer, it's way over here to my left, what looks like the right by this new lightsaber. But I just then, when there's like a pause, I'll look and be like, oh, so and so says this or that, yeah. And then I get right back to the music. So I'm not really thinking about the chat. I just set times when there's like a dead moment, or if I'm stuck on something, to buy my brain a little moment to kind of let the hamster wheel start rolling again. I'll be like, oh yeah, let's look at the chat.
So I've sorry.
What's that, Curtis?
I was going to say, does that answer your question, Lars? But then Eon probably says something much more insightful than I'm going to say. So go.
No, but I'm asking you a question, Curtis. What about doing that with the chat?
I mean, yeah, there is that. I mean, there is that notion of, you know, keeping it to one side and checking it. I tend to, now I have my brand new spanking phone. I've been testing that
Is
out.
that an iPhone?
No, it's a Motorola.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw the like 3 camera setup of the iPhone. I was like, oh, did he switch?
No, I was thinking about it. But I mean, I can't afford that shit, so no, not now. But yeah,
Alright,
we'll get
alright.
there. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what were
But
you
yeah,
gonna say,
that's
Jan, like?
I haven't had the guts yet to lift the lid on my creative process, but I think, and I must admit, it doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
I don't. I
That's
really
fair.
question how much. No, no. That's just, I question how much interest there would be in me doing
I'd
it.
be
I mean,
watching.
maybe
I've been
edit
watching it.
highlights, but I think if I were to do it, I would need to try and just forget that it's being filmed, really. And like you said, Sunwarper, just kind of, it's there. If something happens that's worth sharing, then I've got it, right? But otherwise, I'm just going to ignore it's there and do my thing. But I think there's a danger that I might, you know, go the Curtis way and sort of be a bit too aware of it or concerned with that, and it just creating enough of a distraction to mess up my flow. Because I mean, it doesn't take much, really, you know.
But see,
Oh,
the one thing I'll
outside
add though is doing these things trains it to take more.
Yeah,
Like as you do them, you do
I hear
get.
ya.
That's one thing I had to face because I pretended to myself that it was I just didn't like recording, right? Or I didn't like going live because I was so anxious about it. I still get anxious before I go live for these live streams, and usually everything goes wrong right before. But I've just because of doing it, I learned like just roll with it. You know, like if this doesn't work or something, you just adjust and change course and all that. But that's one thing I'd say is just we all have our positions and stuff, and I'm not saying that anyone doesn't feel this way. Just from my own experience, I thought I felt a certain way, and then it was really just my anxiety controlling me. And so the more I eased into doing these things, it lessened and lessened, and I learned to just kind of like sit with that anxiety, but then still go through with it. And I'm not saying that anybody else watching or here is that way. I'm just, if anybody maybe does feel that way, I hope it just helps to know that there's other people like that. And it sucks, but the only way to get through it is to just work on it. I do want to test something really quick. Okay, I just wanted to see if we ship. Yeah, I wanted to see because I really want to see the puppy on Lars's, so I needed to zoom in a little bit there. Oh,
yeah.
Here, let's just focus in puppy cam for a second. We always get cat cam,
Yeah,
and I'm a
we've
dog person largely, so I need some puppy cam. All right.
and the dog's
camera
gone.
shy. Speaking of
I'll
creative
record it.
anxiety, we just gave the dog creative anxiety. Way to go.
Oh, that dog lives on anxiety.
Oh, that's like my dog, man. We rescued him, and he's poor thing. He just gets every little noise. Like if you hit your shoe on the ground when you're walking, he gets so scared. Like just you scratch your shoe on the ground. Oh, if a car goes by that's really loud, he's like running.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, he was basically feral. They found him with his mom when he was a puppy, like out in a creek, and he was out there for like a week or something. So he's the sweetest dog, but yeah, he's got really bad anxiety. But it's interesting to be around and see how he changed. We've had him for I think 2 years now or something, and the way he's developed and like overcome some of that is just it's crazy.
That's the same dog you wrote the song about on your
Obi. Yeah. Wow, look at that memory. Way to go.
I know. Talked about it in the interview. Which
that's right.
That was actually a big source of anxiety for me when I very first started. Like that very first interview I did, like I remember being like so incredibly anxious. But that one actually went off without a hitch.
Can I just tell you something? I was super anxious too before that interview.
Oh wow. But you're on
dude, I have horrible anxiety. I just work on it, like doing these things. I was so nervous beforehand.
I think there's a difference as well because I remember being anxious before I came on your show, Lars, and you're right. We do this week in and week out, but here this is about this. We do community, and there's a deflection, and there's a whole thing here. You know, we do this week in and week out. Suddenly, I'm sitting down, and someone's talking about my work, and that's another completely different kettle of fish. You know what I mean? Like that's like ooh, you know, ooh me, ooh spotlight on me. Whereas this is it's a difference of it, I suppose.
You want to know about me? Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let me share a little bit from the chat because David has been in it. I wish he could join, but we'll be ending soon anyways. But David says, oh no, he said we read that one already. I'm sorry. Here he says, it takes bravery to put yourself out there. That's huge. And that's very well said, David. He also says chill vibes. I'm assuming Lars is outside setup because it popped up when we got Lars in. I do like that outdoor setup. And David also says it is very common creative anxiety. Seriously. And Curtis wants to know if you'd watch an Eon Lake live stream, pop an emoji. So I'm just gonna real quick see if I can get a little.
Does it have to be live? Could it be like Studio Diaries or something?
I'm game for a studio.
Right.
Just so you know, Eon Lake, we've got one emoji from me because I would watch that multiple times.
And it wasn't even my mum.
David also says, I have done impromptu live streams. They are fun to do, gets you focused. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on who you are. Like, you don't have to do live streams. Like, you don't have to do live streams. A recorded one's great too. But if you won't know until you try it, right? And that's what I had to learn. But I really like them because it's kind of like it's capturing that moment exactly as they are. Like straight up, no, you can't edit it. You can't do anything like that. What was that crazy laugh, Curtis?
So, no, you say you won't know until you try it, and my ADHD brain immediately went to drugs.
Is that ADHD or just life experience that leads you to drugs first? That's my question.
As Jack would say, a bit of both. So yeah.
David also says 3 rescue dogs in my house. Yeah, that's great. Rescue's the best way to go, but it can be difficult, but it's worth it. Survey Channel, you want to add anything?
No, just thinking more about the live stream stuff. You know, I've done a few. For me, I get too hyper focused on self-editing, and it's like, well, I'm just changing how I work. This is not really how I work. So I get really hung up on that, and I think that's one reason why I never really went down that path. But you know, I pre-recorded stuff, like I did that one in November. That was fun. You know, maybe making that live instead of just pre-recorded is something possible. But yeah, I think for me, it's just I get too in my head about all this kind of stuff that it sort of paralyzes me. There's too much decision, too much.
I know that feel, man.
Yeah, too much that I want to do, but I'm scared to do, or I feel like no one's going to be interested in it, or everyone else is doing it, so I don't, you know.
But it's your unique voice though, and there's people like I would want to watch that. I always want to see like everybody's production process, but the way you do drums and stuff like that, I would love to see you programming your drums like straight up. Might sound super boring or something, but it's so interesting how you get those drum sounds and stuff. And that's the thing, like it's easy to get bogged down in all the potentialities like I was talking about for me 5 years ago, right? But like you just start and do it one way, and if it sucks, so be it. But you don't get better until, and you're really good with video editing and stuff, but like even the live streams, I like those because you don't have to edit them. Like I edit them after the fact, have another video to put out to show like a story and stuff, but like it's what it is, and it just is. But and then I think people who are watching also have more patience talking about analytics and all that stuff. Like if you did a 50-minute video, like a long form video that wasn't live but wasn't edited, typically people are going to hop off because there's long pauses and stuff. But with a live stream, there's that idea that this is watching in the process live, no edit. So it's like a different thought process as you're watching, you know? So like you can get away with the longer pauses or the ums and things like that. And like, it's scarier in the sense that it's live, but it's also a little more easy because you don't have to worry as much about like, well, I need to take this out of the edit and do all that. We're getting some emojis, but none of them are popping up as emojis in the chat. We've got face smiling, hung out, and then Curtis has planet, orange, purple, ring. But yeah, Survey Channel, I would encourage you if you feel comfortable to do so. I would love to watch like your production live stream or something, or even just an edited version of something, or you know, the dreaded 1 minute short.
That is something. Yeah, I should maybe tackle that first, huh?
Yeah. Well, hit us up in the Discord if you want any questions. We've been doing a lot with shorts. I've been experimenting a lot with shorts. I want to talk about stuff about that. Speaking of analytics, like it is good to know this stuff, but different ways that shorts can be successful because YouTube's kind of changing how it's watched. But that'll be a different episode. But Lars, we'll have to go soon. But you look like you had something you wanted to say.
No, I was going to tell Survey Channel that the next time he has a new album coming out, we're going to have to do an interview.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. I want to read it or watch it. Definitely.
Read it, watch it, listen to it.
Look at us. We're so supportive. We're all so supportive. If someone says, I want to do this, we're all like, just do it. We want to watch it, damn it. Like, go.
I love hearing about other people's creative processes.
Yeah.
I really do.
For sure.
That's like the point of this show to a degree, especially with the round robin, to discuss these things. And we love when all of you can come on. I know we all have different time zones and stuff, but when we can come on and share this, like we say, together we grow. That's the point. Does anybody have anything they want to add before we go to our final segment?
Yeah, there was one thing.
You're not allowed, Ian. Like, I'm just kidding. We can be supportive to a point, okay? No, I'm kidding.
No, I think I feel some reluctance to do stuff like this as well because I have a tendency to obsess, right? So anything that I do has to be representative of what I want it to be, right? So if I start live streaming and so on, then there's a whole aesthetic and what I want that to be, and then I'm not necessarily doing what I do, and it's the word inauthentic that really sort of struck me because that's what I would feel it would be. It's just like, this isn't what I do. This is me doing something to be filmed, and it's very different. And I think that's possibly one of the obstacles to me actually doing it in the first place, because if I felt like it was just, capturing something that happens naturally anyway, I'm fine with that. But if I'm sort of trying to do something for a camera, for a purpose, I feel like I'm getting lost in one of these ancillary, music adjacent activities that are more to do with someone else's idea of promotion than what I'm about. Or so I would need it to be authentic, I think, and that spoke a lot to me.
Yeah, so I guess you have to figure out what form of authentic it is and go from there. But I mean, we've got
me in it.
David says, let us know when the live stream is, Eon Lake. So he's putting you out. You got to do it.
Enough of that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we talk a lot about live stream today, but I think it doesn't have to be a live stream. Like Survey Channel, your shows are pre-recorded, and Lars, your interviews are pre-recorded. I think it's about finding something for you. It's your journey, it's your path, that kind of thing. And like, I mean, I have a live stream where I don't talk to anyone. I just kind of, if you want to pop in, see what's up, and then leave again, that's totally down. I find a rhythm in that, The fun of it is the interaction beforehand. Like for my live stream today, I was like, I'm stuck. Anyone got an idea? And then Lars, you came up with the accordion idea. And then the universe came into it and literally gave you an accordion sample like 20 minutes after messaging. So that's what we're doing. Like that build up and that community beforehand, for me at least, that's kind of where it's going. Yeah. So it's like, I thought it's about finding your path in a way. My path.
And you don't know your path until you try it all, though. That's
you gotta tread it. You gotta tread it. You gotta
try them all to see what works, and then and you stumble a little bit, but we all do that, right? You just get back up and do it again, right? Don't tell me you're thinking about drugs again, dude. Your brain just always gravitates to drugs. Yeah, I knew it. I think that's your lived experience affecting you, just affecting you and affecting the show.
I'm expecting you to do the 20 to 200 BPM transition though next time.
Oh, for sure. I've got it there, and don't worry, everyone. There's
23. The 20 was great, but we need some more chaos.
I have to finish that one. Actually, that is fucked up. I have to finish that one. Thank you. Right, that's my job for the weekend. But yeah, I will do it. I just can't resist. I couldn't resist when getting the tram and sound. There's an old Ukrainian refugee playing the accordion. I'm like, yeah, got to do that.
No, that's a sign.
All right, well, let's go to our final segment, because we've been going for quite a while for an Audionautic. What are we all up to this week? Let's start with our patrons. Lars, what are you up to musically? Fringes of sound?
Trying to
reviews, right?
Reviews. I'm losing. was gone for a whole month, and now there's so many that I'm trying to catch up on among all the other stuff. Aside from that, for my birthday, my wife got me this nice 5 or 6 channel mixer, and
nice.
My old reverb delay pedal and my wah pedal, and
yes,
a Kai MPX8. So I have an idea. It's not fully formed, but yeah, probably going to be a video in the near future.
Nice. Survey Channel, what are you up to this week?
Well, as I dropped in the Discord, I had a brilliant idea to just muck around with Canvas doubles and do some editing on that and make something new with that. Sort of inspired by Black Moth Super Rainbow's Panic Fades, which is just a slowed down version of Panic Blooms, the album they put out in 2018. So I'm just messing around with that. I'm not playing any shows anymore right now, so taking my sweet time.
That works. And Eon Lake, what about you?
I'm going to be taking my sweet time. But
that's par for the course with you, though.
Yeah, most of what I'm doing at the moment, ironically, is that a small mixer over there with a reverb pedal and various bits of kit that I decided to drag over there and plug into it. So I'm trying to get inspiration from sound at the moment. So it's just messing around with various audio routings of physical things and all the little boxes in the studio that can just stand there on top of a keyboard stand and go through a mini mixer. Just trying to create some tones and shifting things that I like.
Exciting. And Curtis, what about you? What are you up to this week? Besides your live stream today?
I'm going to be doing, there's a couple of tracks from the live stream that I haven't finished producing, such as that one, the Survey Channel game, the 2316, sorry. I haven't finished that one, so I want to finish them off. And I also reconnected with an old friend back in Vietnam. We made a lot of kind of like trip hop stuff, and he's a vocalist and he was rapping over the top. We reconnected recently, so I'm going to be going through the old archives and going through all the old stems and kind of working that out and making some new stuff. I think it's gonna be fun.
Ooh,
that's
exciting. So I just had a new song come out. It's a dark ass synthwave track, but what I liked so much about it, I went completely out of my normal. I was just using Bliss Megalit for like all the bass, and there's so many things you can do. We've covered that plugin. I'll put a link in the description to our coverage of it, but there's so much you can do with the modulations and stuff. It made this like really weird ARP bass, but just from filter modulations. And so it's just like always morphing and moving. And that was a lot of fun to make. So that came out. So today I got to do some promo stuff for it and pitch it to Submit Hub and blogs and all that, because it's a synthwavy track, so I think it might fit some playlists. So normally I don't do that whole thing, but when it's like a fitting one, I'll go that route. And then just more time with the Digitac. That's the name of the game, and hopefully that one doesn't fall on my foot, because that will definitely leave a mark as I rebuild my studio. So no promises, but I'm trying to not drop that one. And then I just want to cover a little bit with Audionautic. We've got some stuff. So there's been a lot going on with Bandcamp in the last month. So we actually made a compilation video from our last few live streams, breaking down everything from it being sold by Epic, bought by Songtradr, who Songtradr even is, the fact that there were 50% layoffs, mostly from union employees. So if you're concerned about the site or want to know more about it, you can head to, I'll pop it up once this ends as a link on here, but I'll put a link in the description. Just kind of covers everything, what the CEO has been saying, what Bandcamp United, the union, has been saying. There's a lot going on, and it's interesting. So we made that video, which has been doing pretty well. So yeah, if you want to check it out. And I think that's about it. We've got some stuff coming for patrons. We had our patron Starstream hangout on Sunday, and we'll be doing some retooling with that we'll be talking about soon. But Curtis, did I miss anything for Audionautic?
No, not on what we're up to. I don't think so. It's been it's lovely to have Survey Channel and Lars Haur here today. It's beautiful to have community discussion, and chat's been alive. It's wonderful to see the community come alive on a Wednesday. It's lovely. Very happy.
Yeah, and we will be back next week. Maybe I'm going to try to do a little Digitac demo, or maybe if the studio's set up, I might try to show the way I've done the studio. But we are due for another demo. It's been a week. But if there's anything you guys want to see, either the Digitac alone or like how I'm doing this setup, because it's a whole complicated MIDI routing, but we'll see. But let me know, or if there's anything else you want to see, let us know in the Discord, and we will be back next.
On Discord. Put your drawing.
I don't know if you can actually read it. I can read it, but I can read my chicken scratch writing. I can put it up. I'll put it in the patron Discord. I don't know if it even makes sense, because I just was like, for audio routing, I put arrow. I'll put it up. You guys can see the complicated mess that it is, and see my post 10 years on from college handwriting that's just slipped into non-existence. So. But yeah, I just did a small update to the Audionautic Radio playlist. If you've got any music on there, I think we've got almost all, if not all, of our patrons on there. So patrons, if there's someone that I missed because I've been a little busy with the newborn, let me know. I'll get it in. But if you've got a song you want to pitch, put it in the Discord. Sorry, Curtis was throwing me off because he just so rudely interrupted me there. No, but if you've got a song you want to submit, just pop it in the Discord. There's a section called Audionautic Playlist. And now we'll give Curtis some space to discuss his epiphany.
Sorry, brother. I didn't mean to. It came. We've been discussing behind closed doors for a while, and we keep forgetting. I keep forgetting to do it. We are on YouTube now. We are at 330 subscribers, which is very close to the lucky number 333. But more importantly, this community is growing more and more.
I thought you were going to say the 500. I was like, well, I mean, a little further from 500.
We are trying to get to 500. And if you're new here and you like what we do and you show your support, thank you ever so much. If you know people of like-minded people, like we usually do, tell them about us. And we want to get to 500. We can do a lot more with 500. The door's open, so to speak, with what we can do in terms of broadcasting and how we can grow and reach more people. And for that, we thank you for your support. And we could always say thank you. If you want to help us get to 500, knock a share out the way and let us be exposed to more eyes. It'd be lovely to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
My keyboard is tripping, so you might have to switch to the outro. I don't know if I can do it, but thanks for watching, and we will see you next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. UTC.
Yeah.
Did I get it right? Yeah. All right. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Time change at the end of this month.
Oh, so it might get a little complicated. I hate when that happens. Oh, that October and November time change just screws everything up. We'll make it work.
At the end of the month.
If you want to see more of the continuing journeys of our dread of time changes, follow us on Discord. Link is in the description.
Every year, I forget it comes. And every year, we always have a fuck up with times. That's going to be fun.
What's that Thanos quip? Like, run from it, dread it. Destiny still comes or something from Marvel. That's us with time changes. We dread it, but it still comes.
It's coming. Right. We're gonna have a discombobulate a couple of weeks, but it's fine. Thank you ever so much. It's been lovely to speak to everyone. And we will be back next week. I'm gonna hit that button. Goodbye now. Goodbye.
All right. See you.